Good evening, everybody. Just hope you can hear me. Working off a headset tonight. So tonight, the Planning and Zoning Commission is going to continue with our work session on two properties. First is the Lippy property with Marty Hill requesting annexation. And then if we have some time later, we're going to start to look at the second development in Patriots Overlook. Just as a recap, we had a very long and vigorous discussion over Mr. Hill's proposed annexation to the town and the Lippy property, talking about the pros and cons and things that we all have a urgency to see or believe need to be done. Where we left off the discussion at the end of the evening was for us to bring back the town manager and director of public works to discuss water and wastewater issues that come up with that development. Today, Michelle forwarded us a group of documents. One I would like everybody to start with is the one labeled the Town of Manchester WWTP Current and Future Flows. I believe it is actually the document is called Water and Wastewater Current and Future Flows PDF. And I think with one of the items that we were all in agreement as we discussed, was the idea that we have several things happening within the town, plus, thank you, Michelle, plus the fact that we have now with Patriots Overlook coming in for annexation, we have the possibility of three major developments within the purview of the town of Manchester coming in front of us. So with that being said, I think the committee knows where we are. And Tom, thank you very much for joining in again tonight. I hope everything's good in the south part of the county. I'll let Steve start off and take over and give us some explanation on where we stand based on our water and wastewater issues. Steve? Could you unmute, Steve?
Okay, how's that? Good? Everybody hear me? We're good.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and start with the wastewater treatment plan and a document that's up on the screen. You can see I actually did a 5-year average, and we're well over 317,000 gallons per day as far as a daily average. Rodney, do you want to bring the group up to speed on where we're at as far as the ENR project and maybe elaborate a little bit on that? And that will give them some insight on where we're headed to over the next almost year during the ENR study.
Sure. We're in the very beginning stages of the ENR project. We're in the PER stage, which is the preliminary engineering report stage. We actually met with the engineering firm today. This is the very beginning stages. They will come up with options for us to look at with the ENR upgrade of certain technologies that will work best that's a best fit for us. And in addition to the ENR upgrade, they're also going to look at potential expansion options if we choose to go that direction. And at the end of the PER, they'll produce a report with costs associated with the ENR upgrade and the expansion for the town council to vote on if we want to move in that direction. And I do want to add that that the ENR upgrade, the PER is totally grant funded. When we get in the ENR upgrade, it's not totally funded. It's partially funded. That will be determined. There'll be an estimate of what the MD will fund, and an expansion is not funded. That will be on the town to take on that expense.
So basically what we're looking at, our plant, if we receive funding for the ENR upgrade, it's like you have a 1990 Chevrolet and you're putting a new set of tires on. So basically, we're going to have an ENR upgrade plopped into an older plant. So at that point in time, as Rodney said, we're going to get information back on what it will take to bring our other equipment up to date at the wastewater treatment plant, with the addition of the cost to possibly expand to possibly 750,000 gallons a day. So, Rodney, I believe the study should be completed by February or March of 2021.
Yes, sir. If we stay on target, yes.
So to give you a little bit of information, so let's say the study comes back and we do decide to expand our plant to 750,000 gallons a day. As I said in a previous meeting, you're probably looking at $25 to $30 million for an upgrade of the plant. Now, that being said, if you keep the plant at 500,000 gallons a day, I think that it would be strongly recommended that we put in some type of stabilization tanks, because when we get heavy downpours and rains, even though we have done work on I&I, inflow and infiltration, our flows do go up. We can, show documentation that our flows some days were 800, 900,000 gallons a day. So we definitely need some type of stabilization to contain that flow as it comes in and let it into the plant slowly. When we have these big rainfall events, it's not good on the plant because we can't treat the effluent, the influent, to the standard that's needed. So that's something I want to bring you up to speed. Also, if we needed additional upgrades to some of the aging equipment, you're also looking at $3 to $4 million associated with that. As Rodney said, chances are that is not grant funded. So that would come from the wastewater. That would come out of the wastewater fund to do that. So, Rodney, you want to expand a little bit on the 400,000 gallon a day mark and what we have to do, if we reach that point, and what we have to do as far as MDE is concerned?
Sure. Well, in the spreadsheet at the top, I explained it, but I'll explain it online here. So the MDE looks at at a 3-year average, and if we hit 80% of the plant capacity within that 3-year average, which is 400,000 gallons, we have to have a capacity management plan, or a consent. It's also called a consent agreement with MDE, basically agreeing to get the ball rolling on an expansion. So if we do hit that 400,000 gallons, we have to have an expansion plan in place. And again, that cost is on the town, solely on the town.
Now, one thing that I keep talking about is we have to look at the number of homes that are currently inside the town limits that are on septic. And you can see by the chart, we're looking at 234 homes that are currently on septic. We have to take into consideration if these homes, if the septic systems start to fail, you can see that we have the potential of basically having to tie them into the town's wastewater system if it's relatively close to the area where the systems are failing. And we do already have an area which we were concerned about systems failing, and we did make arrangements for that, and had the developer put in a gravity sewer line at 2 different locations, which you're all well aware of that.
So I can explain the spreadsheet here that I put together. On the left, about 3/4 of the way down, you'll see the wastewater treatment plant 3-year average, the gallon per day. And that was 2017, 18, 19. And we were at 323,707. And one step below that, I added in the potential in-town, that's in town right now. If we added in the EDUs, which is 250 gallons per EDU. If we add that in, we're above the 80% mark right there. And then,
so Rodney,
yes,
Rodney, real quick. So just plain and simple, down and dirty. If there were to be some catastrophic failure of multiple other systems in those potentials, and we had to bring them on board, all 341 of those at one time or within a year's time, you would already be above, without a question, you would be above the 80% mark that you note in the top portion of your sheet, and you would have to start figuring out what you're going to do with the extra. And that doesn't include anything that Steve said about the I&I or these heavy storms that we get every once in a while, which puts you in a little bit of trouble, correct?
Correct. The average includes rain events.
Okay.
You understand that? Yeah,
I do.
This is I&I and regular wastewater flow as an average.
Okay.
The answer is yes. If you look at the 3-year average, it puts us above the 80% mark with the potential in-town enclaves, the islands and if the septic systems would fail, stuff like that. And then one step down below that, I added in the in-town plus the potential annexations, and that would be the Lippy property and the Patriots Overlook. And that's, you'll see, as you see, it's 427,957, which is well above the 80% mark.
Okay.
Alex?
Yes.
One other thing, on this chart, when we put the potential town annexations of Patriots and Lippy, you also have to figure that if Patriots did not get annexed, they have 17 that they could do in town.
Huh.
And the same with Lippy. If we're saying 40 because he wanted to expand over all that property, but if he doesn't get the out of town, I don't know how many he could get on Old Town. I wouldn't be 40, of course, but there may be 10, 15. I don't know. So that's like another 30 that we have to think about.
So then I'm a little confused. The Mr. Hill Southwestern Avenue, what is that?
That is a parcel. That is a piece of the rest of the parcel that he wants to annex. There's a little 9-acre portion of it that is in town, and I kind of guesstimated at what we thought he could get out of that.
Okay. So even if we say no to annexation, we get a certain number of homes from Mr. Hill and Lippy's and a certain number from Patriots Overlook, which were already in town. And with all this, we're still above 400,000 gallons per day.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, gentlemen. Go ahead.
Oh.
Rodney, you have anything else?
Well, that was, I went on the left there, I went by the 3-year average, and then to the right, lower right, I believe I read that you're asking about during the pandemic, how flows affected us. So on the right, lower right, I did January to April of 2020, and the gallons per day average was 290,000 gallons, 795. And then one step below there, I added in the in-town, which was 376,000 gallons. And then a step below that, I added all of them in, the in-town and potential annex. And I mean, even at that rate, we're a tick below the 80%. That was just a 3-month average, January, February, March, 4 months, sorry.
Right. So we had more residents, but we did not have the school population that may or may not be. Okay.
So that probably skewed the numbers. Yeah.
Bob, I have some information on that as far as the school numbers when we get over to the water side.
Okay, great. Do we have an approximate estimation on what we're seeing for an I&I rate at this point?
I think right now, we over the last 10 to 15 years, we've done a lot of work on the I&I. Rodney, we're getting ready to do another project here within the next several months, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're at the study stage right now. We gave the okay to USG, which was approved by the town council.
So if you go back, I mean, our yearly flows, we've shown progress with the exception of 2018,
right,
which was a very wet year, and our flows were up. I think it was 369,000 gallons per day average for that year. but yes, we've made progress.
Mhm.
I don't know the exact percentage, but I would assume we're right around maybe the 5 to 8% mark of I&I. So yeah, we've made some huge steps with that.
I know you've had a lot of projects going on. I'm just trying to ballpark in my brain the MDE 250 average. So you're probably looking, closer to a 275, 270 range then, factoring in an I&I rate of 10%. Just something to kind of get a handle on, buffer space, so to speak.
Mhm. I think you would be in that range. Maybe a tick higher, maybe a little bit higher than that, maybe about 290, 280 to 290. I'll go along with that. Rodney, you agree with that?
Yes, sir. Yep.
So, okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, Commission. So here's where we are. So at this point, it is up to us. If I remember it correctly, we have a two-part challenge here. One is to either recommend to accept the annexation or recommend to reject it, and then, irregardless of our decision, forward with them a recommendation of what we would like to see in the annexation plan, regardless of what our recommendation is. Am I correct on that, Michelle?
Yes, we can discuss how we want to put this recommendation together, and then we will have to vote on it at the, is that right, Tom? We'll have to vote on it at the planning meeting?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Commission. I'll leave it in your hands for discussion, or we can decide or make a motion and accept or make a motion to decide to and see what we want to do.
I don't, Tom, do you want Alex to read into the meeting for Henry's?
I think that would be a good idea so that it's out in the public and public can hear, can know its contents simultaneously with you all knowing them.
Okay.
Thank you, Michelle. I almost forgot. All right. So for the record, Commission member Henry Leskin was unable to make the meeting tonight. However, he did forward the following letter to Michelle, and I will read it into the record. Dated June 4th, 2020, the Honorable Alex Perricone, Chairman, Town of Manchester, Maryland, Planning and Zoning Commission, reference Lippy Annexation. Dear Chairman Perricone, I am unable to attend this evening's Zoom work session and wanted to provide my views regarding the referenced annexation for the record. The Commission, town staff, and legal counsel have held numerous work sessions to discuss the merits of the proposed annexation. As a result of these work sessions, the Commission has identified a number of potential impacts that could result from this annexation. Loss of water and sewer capacity to service existing enclaves within the town limits. Possible costly upgrades to water and sewer infrastructure, impacts to schools, etc. I will not reiterate all of the issues since they have been discussed and are part of the public record. What has been missing in these discussions are the benefits that the annexation would provide to the town. This may be because no real benefits have been identified. In my opinion, a town should consider annexation of property to expand its boundaries when there is a clear benefit to be derived by the town, and its discussions suggest that this annexation would benefit the town, either through quality of life improvements or economic benefits. The applicant's own economic impact assessment showed, in my opinion, very little direct financial benefit to the town should this annexation occur. As Town Administrator Miller wisely noted, the study period utilized in the assessment ended at about the time it could be expected that repairs to infrastructure within the new community would be required. These costs, not reflected in the study, would have to be would have to be shouldered by the town and its taxpayers. Commission member Graham does make a valid point that by supporting the annexation, the town can control how development proceeds on the property. However, I believe this control must be viewed in terms of the benefits and costs to the town. I see no real benefits and many potential costs to the town should this annexation proceed. The primary purpose of this annexation, in my opinion, is for the applicant to increase lot yield. The environmental constraints and stormwater management regulations that must now be considered on the adjoining Old Town subdivision, which is owned by the applicant, parenthesis, and which is within the town limits, parenthesis, suggests that actual lot yield on the tract may be roughly half of what was originally platted. The Lippy annexation is a means of recovering some of this lost density. Without annexation and the associated public water and sewer, development on the Lippy tract will be limited to 6 or 7 houses based on the state of Maryland's septic law. Ideally, I would like to control how this development would proceed, but believe that the costs of this control are too high for the town. For these reasons, I do not support the annexation. We are required to provide an annexation plan framework to the town council, regardless of whether the commission supports the annexation, since the decision to annex is the ultimate responsibility of the council. As part of this plan, I would require that the intersection from the development be aligned with the signal at Maple Grove Road to provide for controlled access onto Maryland Route 30. Costs for this work, including relocation and upgrade of the sewer pump station if needed, should be the responsibility of the applicant. I thank you for allowing me to provide these comments. Sincerely, Henry A. Luskin, Commission Member. Okay. So, with that being said, is there discussion from any other of the Commission members?
Do we want to take this as, recommended conditions of annexation, regardless of the way we vote first? Or do we want to take a vote first and conditions second? I personally believe we should cite whatever conditions we would recommend prior to the vote. I think it should be a consistent regardless of which way we decide to vote. That's my personal opinion, but I'll defer to the group.
Well, I go back to, I don't disagree with you, Bob. I don't think it matters. I think we just have to, Tom, is there any legal precedent here that we're going to mess up if we go one way or the other?
No. The only question I had, because Michelle and I had emailed about this, is whether the vote was going to occur tonight or the next planning commission meeting. It could occur tonight if it were advertised to occur tonight, so that all parties concerned and the public could know in advance that that's what you intended to do. But if it were not noticed for that purpose, but noticed merely as a work session, out of an abundance of caution, my recommendation would be to take this as a vote, whether it be on conditions or ultimately whether you recommend or not at your next planning commission meeting.
Great.
Okay. Fair enough. Then I guess we'll just end that discussion there and then just pick this up in a abbreviated format at the next commission meeting.
Well, we can,
So we can talk about conditions of annexation.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
On the topic of water and sewer, I think that any cost related to achievement of this subdivision needs to be the responsibility of the applicant. To that, I'll include, should the pump station along Route 30 need to be relocated, improved, or otherwise touched, that's the responsibility of the developer. Same thing with any trunk lines to serve the development, as well as bring water to development. That's all the responsibility of the developer. As mentioned at our last work session, I believe that it is appropriate that there should be a reserve provided. So 20% perhaps of whatever the annexation would generate needs to be added to that number as far as costing is concerned to help cover long-term planning for upgrades of the wastewater system. It's also reserved should the town need to run lines for someone else. This is all part of a cost that I feel is appropriate. As far as traffic and roads are concerned, I agree with my fellow commissioner that the preferred location would be at directly across from Maple Grove Road. Should State Highway not agree with that, there should be a second means of access there to which the developer should be responsible. If that were to include other locations to which a light could be installed, developer should be responsible for that improvement. I will just give an example. If State Highway determined that they would not allow a direct connection across from Maple Grove, that they would prefer secondary connection to be Charmel. Those lights are close enough. An analysis should be made that could those lights be synced up? The additional traffic coming through Charmel is going to make a dramatic impact on that intersection. So should that be the case, it needs to be evaluated. I think that limitation should be put on the number of units that could be delivered prior to state highway improvements need to be evaluated. The burden on schools is something we don't directly control. So we have the numbers that were provided by the county, which need to be looked at. So again, if we accept the annexation, if the council accepts the annexation, there may be a school moratorium in place that may not allow it to move forward. So there's no guarantees that they'll be able to move forward. We don't control that. We have no way of helping or hurting that situation. Those are the items that I see as important.
Alex, one of the things that Steve and I had talked about way back in the beginning of this annexation was that if and when it ever did occur, we'd like to see the developer run just like Bob Ward did for Manchester Farms. We'd like to see him run another sewer line behind those homes on Charmel so that it's already there should we ever need it for those Charmel homes.
I agree. And I think you ought to add that to Bob's list and just make that as part of your
Losing you.
normal with. We may mention that.
You froze, Alex.
That if
Alex, did we lose you?
Alex, you're frozen.
I think the storm got him.
Yeah, I'm hearing thunder, and Alex lives right over the hill from where I live. So, but no high winds yet. But
We're getting thunder and lightning.
We lost him altogether.
We lost Alex altogether now.
Yep.
he may be trying to get back in. Oh, there he is.
that better? Hello?
Hello, are you there, Alex?
Yeah, I am now. Here it comes. Okay, you want me to continue?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say, Michelle, in answer to your question, I think that the Director of Public Works or the town administrator, whichever is appropriate, ought to put that into their agreements, or we make that just a standard. Anytime we approve a development or building where they're going to hook into the town or develop new parts of the system, that if they touch or are near any parcel that's on septic, they make allowances for it. That way, all 234 are covered as we move to the future.
Right, and I think we have a good precedent with the last piece of Manchester Farms that we required that. So it's not out of keeping with what the commission has done in the past.
We actually have it done from Manchester Farm Section 4 when they ran it behind the other side of Charmel.
Yeah, we have it in Section 7 also at Starlight. And also when we reviewed the Carroll property.
Right.
Off of Hilltop, we did make allowances for a gravity sewer line to run into the rear of the houses on Park Avenue that are tied into septic. So yes.
Great.
Okay.
Rodney, I think in the future, when you showed it, when we work with this, I think you ought to mark things such as Riley Garden and Equine Meadows, depending on how many homes we do end up with, as already taking up space in the system. I mean, you can do that however you choose, but I think it would be helpful since Riley's Garden we approved and it's just waiting to be built. So we have to hold those. And also Equine Meadows is in later stages of the review process per se. So I think we should mark those that not only EDUs, but what gallonage we have to hold because we've approved them and they're already taking up space in the system. So it gives all council, all commission members and those that read this an idea of how close we are getting to that 400,000 mark. Well, I guess we gave final approval to Carroll Estates too, didn't we? And they just chose not to build.
You're on mute, Michelle.
I think they went through preliminary, but I don't think we ever did final.
The last thing I remember is they came back because Henry wanted them to preserve as much of the old growth forest as possible. And I think they did a reconfiguration and they saved that old growth forest to the east of the property, but I can't remember much more than that. I thought we gave final approval, but he decided not to build right now because, as Steve said earlier, what was it, Steve? The force main was too expensive to put in.
Did
I hear that correctly?
Right. I think we were up against, they wanted to do individual pump stations, if you recall. And we said, no, we want one specific pump station, and there was some question about that, but I do specifically remember the forest. I do recall Henry's comment about the reforestation.
Right.
Yeah.
I checked the file. They got preliminary, but it was 2017, and that's all they got.
Okay. All right. Well, then we can leave the Carroll property, Carroll Estates right where it is for now. That's fine. But anyway, Rodney, if you would do that, please, that would be a big help during all this.
Yeah, we also keep our eye on, Michelle, you can agree to this. We always keep our eye on the 3 approved lots off of Maiden Lane owned by Donald Cartwright. So, these lots start adding up and then you turn around and all of a sudden you have, 50 new homes on your system. So yes, that's,
Sure, I've been talking and I've had my mic muted, but anyway, I'll work on that tomorrow and I'll add a reserve, what's in reserve. What's
That's fine. I appreciate it.
taking up what's approved and have a reserve in town column. I'll send that to the group.
All right, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Does anybody else have anything along with Bob's extensive list, a good list, I would say, for our recommendations? Michelle, would you like to read those back, please, so we can all hear them and make sure we're all on the same page, please?
Okay, so the items that you would like added to the plan is any water sewer costs related to the achievement of the development would be paid by the developer, including pump station, relocated or improved, trunk lines, rainwater. And Bob, I thought you said you reserved 20% of what?
My recommendation would be that there's a 20% reserve granted to any water and sewer facilities.
Gotcha. And then it's always Bob's, that's the hard one. Traffic and roads, we want the preferred, or we would say we want the intersection to match up with Maple Grove, but should State Highway not agree, a second entrance is required. And if that entrance is Charmel, we want a light looked at. A limitation on the number of units prior to State Highway's comments. Is that what you said? Unmute. Unmute.
Unmute. Yes, that a limitation on the number of units that may be accessed onto southwestern Charmel
Gotcha.
prior to any state highway improvements.
Okay. And then additional sewer lines behind the Charmel Drive homes. That it?
That was it.
Yep. Okay. Good. Does anybody else on the commission have any comments?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand the process. So we'll be voting to determine what our recommendation is to the mayor and council. So I suspect at next meeting, someone will make a motion on one of three things: a motion to annex, a motion to annex with conditions, or a motion not to annex. Is that pretty much it?
Right, to recommend not to annex, or recommend to annex, or recommend to annex with conditions.
Now, Tom,
Thank you.
can they do a recommendation to not annex, but should the council determine to annex, then we want all this?
Absolutely, and I think it's probably appropriate, I know you have a draft going, that the annexation plan in draft form be provided to the planning commission members so that they may essentially review it, because that will contain all the conditions that have been reviewed here, because it will be the plan, if you will, for taking on this development with respect to infrastructure.
And I do have that in draft form to send out. I just was waiting until you got all your conditions you wanted so that I could put them in the appropriate spots in that plan. So I could probably get that out to the commission next week. I'm used to being Tuesday nights.
What day is it? Who knows?
Tom, in our recommendations, we can make a one of the things I'm struggling with here is the whole discussion of that we had last meeting about these multiple developments coming in order. And because of our water and wastewater situation, can we recommend that if annexation occurs, it should be deferred a year, or from even it being starting? Because what I'm thinking is we have equine acres. That's going to come whether we like it or not. That's already in the pipeline. That's pretty much set. I think we just got some final things to work out with them before they come for final approval. So that's A. This is going to be B. and the one we're about to discuss is C. And in my mind, it's very, regardless of what the town council, we should, I mean, if they vote to accept it, that's fine, but they should, we should defer this, recommend that they defer this for a while so we can, things let slowly come in. We don't want 3 major developments all popping in at one time.
Yeah, I mean, you could make that a part of your recommendations. Just remember, obviously, annexation is not the same as development review. You still, just because they're in town doesn't mean that tomorrow they begin, you know, obviously they still have a development review process that they have to undertake. So this is, you know, annexation is just the first part of this. So by virtue of that, you know, in theory, you've got some staggering. It's not happening tomorrow, you know, even if it's approved tomorrow. But yes, you can certainly give some recommendation to the town council or any comment really you want to make about the annexation.
Okay, thank you. Just for the record, Larry's had to drop off because of storm that's going through this area now. So he's offline for the rest of the meeting. All right. Does anybody else have any comment between Dale or Bob? I think we're the 3 left to carry the ball.
I think everything was summarized well. That the wastewater information was very useful. So thank you, guys.
Yes, Stephen, Rodney, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome very much.
Okay. You're welcome. Yep.
All right. So commission members, I think we've probably come to the end of where we are with the Lippy property. So at the commission meeting itself, the formal meeting, we'll have a vote on our recommendation. And then Michelle, you'll put into draft form. I'm not going to put in anything about delay at this time. I think Tom brings up some good points about this is just one part of it. We've got a long way to go. So I think this may give us some buffer with Equine Acres being in the pipeline a little sooner. I think we'll do okay.
Remember that as a part of your recommendation, you can also make comment on or recommendation with respect to the proposed zoning as well. So even if you were to say annexation is a bad idea at the zoning that's been proposed, maybe there's a different zoning category that you all might recommend. So that's fair game as well. And then of course, typically you would comment on consistency with the master plan. Now, you know, this is within our growth boundaries, so that's a simple thing. But you know what a master plan said about the type of development that we'd look to have go in here. But it's fair game to look at that and make comment, recommendation about that as well.
Well, we had, at the time when we did our comp plan, they were R40 in the county. When we went, so we were taking them in as R20, I want to say. Is that medium density? Yeah. And since then, the county has rezoned and now there are 10 in the county. And I don't know how they even did that. That's got to be a mistake when you don't have any public utilities.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So they've completed that process and have comprehensive, as a part of a comprehensive rezoning.
Yes.
It does make sense. They did do that. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
But we had proposed them at R20.
Well, then I think we should recommend and go back to the original, go back to R40. If we're going to take this, if we're going to accept annexation, or if annexations occur, then it would be my opinion to go back to R40, because this is the same thing we're about to run into as we discuss Patriots Overlook. the R40 is there, then all of a sudden everybody wants to cut everything in half because, as it's made mention in numerous different ways, people are increasing the density so they can get more yield out of their property. So it's my opinion that we ought to put in as a recommendation that it go back to the R40 zoning.
And I have a concern, and this may not be the case, but it was R40, and I'm sure that they had an input in this rezoning, but it got rezoned right after we changed our code that anything R40 annexing in had to give up 30% of some kind of park or open space that was
Open
usable.
space.
But remember when we redid all of that?
Mhm.
So, and then all of a sudden it's R10. So I don't know what we do with that, Tom.
Well, you can certainly ponder that for the next commission meeting, obviously. And whether it's a consensus or ultimately going to be part of the recommendation that zoning drop back to R40.
Because we discussed that because we had two parcels. We had the Hunter Farm and we had the Lippy that was R40. And so we said, if we take in any R40, they can cluster because we don't want the infrastructure that spread out, but they also had to give us something as far as land, usable land.
So that's not that concept about usable land for the town's benefit is nowhere in that plan, is it? Because I don't remember seeing anything in any of the proposed development plans.
We changed the R40 zoning. We added to the R40 zoning. Hold on a second. That any residential subdivision in the R40 occurring on land that's annexing into town after last October 2018 shall be required to cluster with the following things. And it was with the criteria set forth in 25085, which 25085 tells us that they have to give us something. The total number of lots shall not exceed the number that it would have if they were developed in conformance with their normal minimum lot size. And the unallotted land derived from the reduction of the lots shall be provided and maintained as common open space for joint use by the residents.
Bob, Dale, got an opinion on that?
We had-
And I've just never been a big fan of the clustering. I'm not sure what we need the open space for. We don't need any more parks. It is what it is, but I've just never been a big fan of clustering. Found out on Halley,
Okay.
we got the side of a mountain, and so I haven't been a fan since.
We had brief discussions at one of our earlier work sessions about that there would be a need for some kind of usable, which I think is the key word here, open space park in this area, and that would be taken into account during any plan development review should the property be annexed. I have to admit I missed that the county rezoned that property. Again, I kind of wonder if that's an erroneous mapping error, since the county has no facilities in that area to support R10 lots.
And I did bring it to Price's attention and he confirmed that it was R10, but I don't know if they have corrected it because they've been doing some other zoning changes also by request. At this time, I don't know where it is in the process.
So Michelle, I'd ask you to check with him and see if there was any basis for a map change there. Was there an appeal made by the property owner? Was it mapped R10 in just the sheer fact that it was within our growth limits and they were counting on that? I mean, what's the background?
Okay.
All right. Anything else on the Lippy annexation? I guess the rest of us is going to all have to go into a formal meeting. All right. If you guys want to pull up your stuff for the, we'll take about 15 more minutes and let's discuss the Patriots Overlook.
Okay. Do you want me to explain what those 3 maps were?
Sure, please.
Okay, this, oops, where am I? I didn't share it, hold on. I'm lost. Oh yeah, I'm doing really good. Jeez, pizza. All right, let me share. Share screen, and we're gonna go with this one, okay. So this is just an overview of where it is. This is Park Avenue. This in the gray is what is already in town that is owned by Patriots. So they have, and I think I totaled it up of like 13.35 is in town, and this 12.64 is what's left of this parcel that they did 4 off conveyances previously. So this 12.6, this piece right in here is what they are looking to annex. This is what they could build on today. So then we go to, where's my other map? Oh my gosh, where's my other map? I lost it, guys.
Michelle, I can get it if you want to send me as the host.
The what?
Can you make me the host?
I don't know, Alex, hold on.
Okay, probably not. It's probably got to come from CM, the staff.
Me for sharing screens?
Yeah, you're co-host.
Yes, sir. I am?
I just did it.
All right. Here
You should go to
go.
share your screen.
Oh, I couldn't get my screen to get up there. That's why I was messing up.
Can everybody see that? That's the
Yes.
CLSI mapping. Let me enlarge it. There we go. So this is the proposed development. To the right, this area where I have my cursor going over, this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 homes they want to build at the end of Broham Court. Now, I'm assuming that this area in here, Michelle, this is where those houses are that they built prior,
Yes,
which would be to the north side of those little homes that the resident already sent a letter of disgust over.
that is where the 4 homes are.
Okay.
That entire area is where the
Okay.
4.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So if you come down here, this is down along Park Avenue, just prior to Burt Fowler. It would be a right-hand turn into the property with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 homes on the right. It would come around the property. This is the existing, what was known as the Farrell property here that's still in town. And then it would come all the way around to a court. And then there would be 2 common use driveways, one here to the right that would back up against the homes in Broham Court, with quite a elevation drop there. And then it would go down further back towards 27, and whatever that, I don't know how large that area is down below, that was to be left as an open area.
And stormwater management mostly.
Stormwater management, okay. 6, 7, 8.
And then if you notice, they're showing 5 houses on each one of their use and commons.
Yep. So that would be that's the proposed plan. If they're annexed.
Right, correct.
The proposed plan, if not annexed, is really not that much different, to be honest with you.
No, this one. This is it. So this plan is totally upside down from the
Hold on,
other one.
Michelle. Hold on a minute. I got it upside down.
Yeah.
I got to rotate it. I'm sorry. I apologize.
What a co-host you are.
Yeah, what can I tell you? Can't live with me, can't live without me, right? All right, I think you're right side up now.
Okay. So you can see on this one where the town line goes, and all those dark fields down there would be people's septics. So this is the in-town portion, and if they built out of town. And this is where we had originally talked about the road would come in and it would be out of town where it hit the court. That was about it. But the 4 over to the right where I showed you where they're off conveyances, now you can see the big lots that they off conveyed off of Seattle Slough Drive. Right. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 houses additional if they don't annex. And what did I say inside? I had all that.
8 or 9 inside the town.
Yeah. And 22 in town. 22 in town and 10 out of town. Is that right?
And that's if they perk in well.
Yes. Yes.
I hear 22 in town.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I see 18.
18 if we don't annex.
Yes. Here's my other map. I have that written on. There might be 19. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, I have to correct myself. There is 19 shown on there in town, and then the 10 additional out.
And again, that's if they are able to find water and they are able to get perk tests done.
Right, correct.
Do we know if there's any record of whether they've done a perk test or not? Or I know they haven't done any well drilling, and I don't think they've done any perk testing. So they're assuming they're going to get it.
Steve, didn't they previously do some well drilling down there?
I don't know about well drilling, but I do recall, this is going back at least 10 to 12 years. They did do some perk tests in the area. I do recall that. And,
Well,
you know, actually, when they actually drilled the wells for the homes on Seattle Slough Way, I think they did some investigating back there for water. One thing I want you to keep in mind, no matter what plan you have, all in town or the plan you have up, I do seriously recall that at one point in time, there was a sewer pump station plan for that area. And it almost has to be with the elevation changes that we're dealing with right there. So, I mean, the plans that I looked at show no sewer pumping station whatsoever. And that's, I don't know what the plan was for that, but
yeah,
Michelle,
Alex,
you recall that?
yes. And I thought they also tried some well drilling down there because at that time, if they brought in water, they could develop.
Yeah, I think maybe when they were doing the wells for the homes on Seattle Slough Way, they may have, checked around a little bit. Yes, I do know some perk tests were done back in that area. Yeah. But coming back to the pump station parcel, I don't see anything on there, either one of the plans that shows an area for a pump station. So.
Yeah, so if you go back to the plan, if annexed, Alex.
Yes.
Since we don't see any pump station on there either, and the fact that they are adding way too many on use and commons, I think you cut down some of those. Something has to go there. I don't.
So isn't this another one of the R40? Now they want R20?
They are, yes, they are R40 outside. Yes.
But if annexed, they're going to want R20.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And we also talked about this, they're automatically clustering, and that's not a given. That's the commission has to approve to cluster. Otherwise, they'd have to do it as a conventional R20 zoning.
Huh. Well, gentlemen, what's your thoughts?
I didn't see in the package a financial impact statement for this one.
No.
And, I mean, certainly what the layout that we have on the screen right now, it's a far more compact development, less future roadway for us to maintain, plow, water, etc. I think before we go too much further, I think they need to comply and do the financial impact statement for one. I think, if they're going to submit if annexed, what they're going to bring back to us for regulatory, to Steve Michelle's point, they need to be in compliance. So they need to look at their use in common driveways. There needs to be an allocation for a pump station put on here.
Well, those would be,
Yeah.
Bob, wouldn't they be recommendations regardless?
They would be. On the map, and again, I understand this is not regulatory, but on the map they showed of the if not annexed, I didn't see the surrounding well and septic fields. Not that we would be reviewing the well and septic lots, because that would be the out of town portion. But I think that should be depicted on here.
So this is coming.
This is a little different because see where I wrote Patriots? They own that now
Yeah.
too. So that it gave them a little more wide entrance there.
So I can't see it on here, but where is?
So
there should be a house on the north side of Park Avenue called Comer, Comer. Is that here?
So I guess first thing is this drawing that they've got showing does not have the roadway aligning with Brightside. The
Right.
roadway with Brightside is over to the side.
Right, because at this time, this is an old map from years ago. I just threw it out here to give you guys an idea what they're thinking, because where the words Patriot is written, that's now owned and part of this development also. So that's how they got the roadway coming out of Brightside.
Okay, that's the difference.
Right. This is the open field. This is the Farrell property. This is the backside of where I live, right here. Because this is my septic field, right there. So, yeah, this is really old. 09. I'm sorry, I just saw that.
Yeah, it was just letting you look.
1709.
Right.
I didn't even notice that on the bottom. Thank you.
Alex, it appeared from our address book, if you could, I believe you're in the ballpark. I think this, hold on. The property next to is the Comer property.
Right here?
2846. I believe it's the next one over. Yes, right there, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're in the ballpark.
That makes sense.
You're in the ballpark though. Yes.
Right. Okay. So then this goes up the hill.
That is correct. Yes.
So then that would make this Hafley and then up. Okay. So this is the top of the hill headed back towards the water tower.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That makes sense now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Michelle, when would you say we would need to send something back to the town? This has been officially presented now to the council and mayor and council.
Yeah, and they just sent it over for your review, but not official one, I don't believe yet, or maybe it is. Do you know, Tom? So confused.
Yeah, I mean, it was formally introduced, but only at the last town council meeting, I think.
And so we had 60 days, to basically, so this is really, we just got this and they just got it their last meeting. So we have some time. But I don't know why is the financial impact statement required in the application for annexation?
No,
Okay.
but you can certainly demand it. I mean, you can certainly say, to get my vote to recommend this, I need to see it. And so
Okay.
that can happen both here and later, of course, the town council.
Okay.
So Tom, can we bring it at the next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting? Can we make that part of the public record that we are officially the commission is officially requesting an impact statement and some of the things that Bob had mentioned, the regulatory issues, that they make those corrections so we can look at this in the way it should be, not the way they think it might be?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that now. You can direct, I guess, Michelle to reach out to the applicant, or I'm in touch with Clark Schaefer, who's the counsel for the applicant. Either one of us could communicate that to them now, after today's meeting.
Okay. Bob, Dale, unanimous consent to move forward with the financial impact study and make the changes on this annexation plan based on proper code?
Yes, I agree with going forward in that manner.
Okay.
Agreed.
Thank you. Michelle, I'll let you and Tom argue this one out. Who wants to make contact? Sorry, Tom, didn't mean to put you in the limelight.
No worries. I've been receiving calls from Clark. If you saw me get on the phone, it's Clark trying to get in, but he couldn't. So that's okay.
All right. All right. I think this is a good place to end. I think we're ready to go for unless anybody else from the commission says otherwise. I think we're ready to finalize what we want to do at our meeting, and we have some stuff out for our other members information that we need to get and to look at as we make decisions based on what we see with Patriots Overlook. Is there any other business we need to cover in the work session?
Good.
All right. Okay. Steve, what's the town's plan? Let's see, we're due up when for a meeting coming up soon? So we enter phase 2 tomorrow, and we are actually scheduled for Tuesday the 16th in person.
Hey, we see your whole calendar here. It's
I
going
know.
out. You better stop sharing.
There's not much space, is there?
We're going on the 16th, and I have already been approached by Robert Hallwick he's going to talk to Rich to see if he can do it in this format, but he wants to talk a little bit more about equine.
That's fine.
Right now, Alex, right now where we're at, we're looking at, we're just following the governor's orders of 10 or more people in a gathering. That's what we're looking at right now. As of this time, town hall is still closed to the public. So we're just following the guidelines as we go along. So.
All right. So with town hall being closed to the public, just to help me walk through this, our meetings carry 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're right at 10. And then we would have to ask Price to come in at a designated time when we call them to come in and provide his report to keep the number at 10. That's soon. Let's see. Ooh, we're pretty much at 10 with price, I think, aren't we? Or pretty close.
We're pretty close, right? We were looking at a different way to arrange our meeting room to keep the 6-foot distance also.
Okay.
Also, we're working under the governor's orders, but also we're working under the mayor's declaration of emergency for the town. So I would strongly recommend, if there's any way we could do it via Zoom on the 16th. I don't think we're prepared to move forward quite yet. So I would strongly recommend, now our town meeting next week on the 9th will definitely be a Zoom meeting.
All right.
That's my recommendation, Alex.
No, that's fine. I'm not even going to go any further than Michelle. We'll do the 16th at 7 o'clock on Zoom, and let's just make the necessary arrangements for people to register who have business with the commission to be allowed into the meeting, and we'll go in that fashion.
Okay, and so you want to do it at 7 instead of 7:30?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have. It sounds like we're gonna have a lot to do. I think if there's no objection from the other commission members, if we can get it started at 7, a half hour early to allow for the business of the commission to take place, I think that might be in our best interest.
Okay.
Gentlemen, do you have any qualms?
Nope, I'm good with that. Take regular business first, annexation second.
Okay.
Yep.
That's good with me.
Great. Yep.
All right. Then I guess we're done.
That sounds good. Okay, everybody. Tom, again, thank you very much for traveling in from the south part of the county. It's good to see everybody. Hope you're all well, and we will talk soon. Thank you.
So.
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Be safe.